economic development, city of Conroe. So really our mission is to bring in good paying jobs, what we call primary jobs, into Montgomery County. That strengthens our tax base and strengthens our economy. So the way our department's funded, just so you have kind of a basic understanding of it, is back in 1994, the voters of the city of Conroe decided that 0.5 cent of every retail dollar that's spent in Conroe goes to fund economic development. So, anytime you do any shopping, you're helping fund economic development in this, in our community, which is kind of cool. Sorry. Also, we're all at home, and just know that I've got 2 kids, a husband, and 2 dogs here. And of course, our very kind and adorable yard crew, who we love, they're like family to us, are outside as well. So yay. Anyways, so some of the things that are money, that 0.5 cent of retail sales dollars, goes to fund. These are some examples. And I give you all this information. It's just context for, as you begin to start a business, whether it's in Conroe, which we hope it is, or in another community, it's important to know kind of what's going on. What are the demographics? What is your community made of? And so that's some of what this information is. And then we'll talk more specifically about some tools that we have available for startup businesses. But so some of the things that that tax money, that 0.5 cent of retail sales tax, has funded recently is the extension of League Line Road. There's a customs facility, which is what this picture is, the U.S. Customs facility at the Conroe North Houston Regional Airport, which is a really great asset as we recruit big companies that have an aviation division. They can fly right into Conroe, clear customs right there, and it makes it easy for them. We did on FM 3083, there's a railroad grade separation, road improvements in Conroe Park North. We changed everything to concrete roads, so the coming in and out of the industrial park. And then there was an extension of a roadway. So a lot of infrastructure projects that we've done. This gives you an idea of who our board is. Some faces you may recognize. Some of them are elected officials, some of them are not. We've got 3 citizens at large, and then some city council members as well. And so they oversee what's called our Conroe Industrial Development Corporation. That's just the name of like who governs that 0.5 cent sales tax. And then we have what we call our advisory board, which is a separate board that's made up of stakeholders in the community. So our college presidents of Lone Star are on that. And I think there's a representative from Sam Houston. We need probably to have a representative from University of St. Thomas on there as well. You've got folks like, other community leaders and presidents of some of the larger corporations and workforce folks on there as well. So that's kind of on our advisory board. Here's our staff. I said there's 5 of us. Danielle's our director. There we all are. Okay, so what we do. So what does a day look like in economic development? How do we support our businesses? And so we do it a lot through what I do, Danielle and myself do, is marketing and recruitment. So we're always talking to companies who are interested in relocating their businesses here. So whether we get those leads through the governor's office. Sometimes companies or site selectors who get hired by companies will call the governor's office and say, hey, we want to be in Texas, but Texas is huge. Where do we go? And so then we'll get information about what they're looking for in a community, what would be helpful for their business. And then we try to help them. We want to obviously them to select Conroe. So we try to sell Conroe. Another piece of that is retention and expansion. So Jennifer, who you saw on the slide previous, runs our business retention and expansion program. So we're looking for ways to make sure that our companies have all the things that they need to do business successfully in Conroe, so that they stay in Conroe, and then they expand in Conroe. So that's a big part of, typically 80% of your growth in a community comes from your existing companies. So that's why, entrepreneurship is a big part of that, right? Like a part of that growth, that organic growth that happens in a community. So obviously you see entrepreneurship on here. So things like talking to you guys today is, we're trying to figure out new ways, like I said, to support the entrepreneurship community. And I kind of want to hear from y'all at the end, or what are some things that would be helpful. And then research. So a lot of what we do is provide research. So when you're starting a company, you need to know, well, what kind of demographics are in this community? What's the average age? What's the average income? Do they already have a bakery? You know, where are those bakeries, or whatever the business is that you're starting? So we do provide a lot of data and research as well. So this gives you sort of a snapshot of the next couple slides, Will, of what's going on in our city. And that it also should give you a little bit of confidence that as you start a business, you're starting it in a good place. So the population, we're almost at 100,000. Excuse me, we're at 96,292. And we were named by the US Census as one of the second fastest growing cities in the US. And I'll show you kind of how they came up with that. We've got population growth that's, 71%. We've got a more and more educated community. Every time we look at this, the percentage of folks who have associate's degree and higher or some college coursework continues to grow. So that's something that takes a lot of time, but we've done some invested work in where we're trying to increase the education level. So we have, a more educated workforce. A more educated workforce brings in higher paying jobs and better quality jobs. So that's a number that we've seen go up every year, which is fun. So this is one of those slides I was talking about. So us is the number 2 city behind Frisco. This is really based upon, it's the percent of change. If you read the little note at the bottom, it explains it, but the percent of change for some of these larger cities, so cities that have a population of over 50,000 from 2010, to 2020. So over a 10-year span. And we were the second highest, fastest growing city. Does that kind of make sense? Yes, no, kind of. So it's a percent of change, right? Okay. Yeah. Thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. But this gives you some of those other cities that we compete with a lot of these for projects as well. They'll say, oh, well, Conroe's fast growing, but so is, Buckeye, Arizona. What's going on over there? Is land cheaper over there? Do they have the workforce that can come to work at my new company? So anyways, that's another one. Here's another slide that we like to tout, that we're one of the top boom towns in America. So this one, they looked at a 5-year population change. They looked at that GDP growth. So those are all, you can see sort of the categories across that they looked at to determine. And we were really in a tie with this city, Meridian, Indiana. But anyways, based upon those 5 categories, we were ranked, one of the top boom towns in America. And that was just recent. That was in 2021. So there's a lot of growth, and a lot of it has been organic, with people just moving, stand at the borders of Texas on either side. And you're going to see those U-Haul trucks moving in. Folks are moving to Texas for jobs and coming to Conroe, especially. So, again, as you start a business, think about starting a business, build a business plan. You want to make sure that the customers that you're catering to have the disposable income to spend on your product or service. So median household income is 63,000, which is a pretty good median household income. The median household expenditure is 64, which looks like we're spending more than we're making. And I was trying to figure out the details of this. But we're technically not when you look at it from the disposable income perspective, but I got to get the research on that to be able to explain it better. So I don't think I can explain it exactly right this minute, but that's sort of, it's sort of a misnomer that it looks like we're spending more than we're making. We're not, but there's some extra numbers factored in there, and I'll have to get back to you on all the details. Anyway, so cost of living, we're at 93%. Really, anything under 100 is great if you're under that 100% threshold. So we're less than the national average, and we've got way more, we have more homeowners than renters. We're 48% of homeowners versus renters, so not more, but a good number of homeowners versus renters in the area as well. We've got a labor force, so this means the people that are available to work, right? So if you're retired, you don't count. If you're under 18, you don't count. But that labor force is 48,000. So this talks about businesses. There's 4,200 businesses in Conroe, and there's 4,100 that makes up 41,000 employees in Conroe, just in those 4,200 businesses. So 65% of those are white collar versus blue collar jobs. A long time ago, it used to be that Conroe just had blue collar jobs, but more that's beginning to flip. Things are still made in Conroe. There's still a lot of manufacturing that happens in Conroe, which is exciting. But a lot of those are it's more research and development and more technical manufacturing. So our unemployment rate is still at 4.8%, but we're down. At an all-time high, obviously in April, like when the pandemic first hit, we were at 14.9%. So it's dropped, but it's still pretty high. Conroe usually ranks pretty low. Our unemployment rate's usually pretty low. But anyway, so some of our top industries are healthcare and social services, and then obviously retail, manufacturing, and then food services. Kind of can see where the breakdown is. This is a good indication also of just growth in the community. You can see home starts, residential permits. So they obviously you have to come to the city if you're going to build a house or a subdivision. And so this gives you a breakdown. So in 2022, so far, we've had 159 home starts, 7 subdivisions. That's almost 80, with 80 total acres and 777 lots. So then commercial builds, 27 new build outs or remodels. So that's who's come to seek permits from us at the city, which I think it's kind of a good, that continues to grow. Those numbers are, I think they're 3 weeks old. So not, the first month and a half, basically of the year is where we are. Excuse me while I grab a sip of water. So this is a big map of Conroe. So let your eyes adjust. The big yellow line headed north and south through the middle is obviously I-45, just to give you kind of a frame of reference. And there's a couple of areas that are highlighted. These are kind of our top development spots, if you will. If you see the orange right in the center, that's downtown. That's where your St. Thomas micro campus is right there in downtown Conroe. To the south, that big kind of yellow gold section, that's Grand Central Park. So that was the old Boy Scout camp. It was Camp Strake. And so Johnson Development bought that. It's a little over 2,000 acres, and it's going to be residential, retail, office. And so right now we've got that big, you've probably driven by there. If you've driven through that area, there's a big Kroger and a Dick's Sporting Goods and some restaurants that have come. So anyways, that's just becoming a really nice area. The new hotel and conference center, it's a Hyatt Regency, is being built right there on the, you can see where the arrow is, kind of halfway down Grand Central near I-45. So it'll be 250 keys, I think, that hotel, with 60,000 square feet of meeting space. So that's really big. The city will own it. And then Hyatt we basically lease the management of it to Hyatt. So then you can see our industrial parks are up north. They're kind of turquoise and green as Conroe Park North, which is where a lot of those big industrial manufacturing companies are and where we sell a lot of land. There's not a ton of land left. And then the green little section to the right of that, that's Dyson Technology Park. So that's 248 acres, I think, is what we are total there. And then the airport's just to the south of that. You can see the runway. So I'll tell you, this big green section of land that's really between the industrial park and the tech park is just sold to D.R. Horton. So that's all going to be new houses in there. So there's kind of a land grab going on in Conroe. There's not a lot of land left, and it's really been a fight between industrial and residential. So even to the north of the industrial park of our kind of that turquoise space, again, that's all been sold recently, more housing. And then Woodlands Hills, that's another big residential area on the west side of the freeway. And that is an 1,800 acre residential. It's got some commercial in there as well. And then Margaritaville, everybody's excited about Margaritaville. It's been fun. If you haven't been out there, go eat dinner, walk around. It's a great space. They've really done a lot to renovate that. It's exciting and fun to have in our community. And so it's, with the conference center and then Margaritaville, we can recruit kind of 2 different types of events. So these are some of the major employers, some logos you may recognize, but some of the companies that have the most. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. Did you say DR Horton was the like lime green or the teal green?
Excuse me. DR Horton is going to be right in here. Can you see my mouse?
It went to the major employers screen on my side. Is it the like lime green color or the teal?
I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm taking allergy medicines and they've got my throat all dry. So I apologize. Okay.
No worries.
I know. So I'm like, you got. Okay, I'm going to survive. Okay, let me go back.
Good.
So this is our industrial park. And this is the technology park. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so then this right here.
Okay.
Excuse
Looks
me.
like it's in between the two.
Correct. It's right in between.
Gotcha.
It was it's got a lot of water in it. So it's not great for industrial. It's not great for industrial because it's got so many creeks running through it. So it's really better suited for residential anyways.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And then this all to the north has been sold to a different developer. I don't know which one, but okay. So then here are our major employers. So a little bit about the industrial park, which is that turquoise piece again. You can see it's 1,600 acres. And we put in, part of what we put in that we paid for from that 4B sales tax is we put in the city, we put in water and sewer, electrical, natural gas. We put in the streets and the signage. And we've got covenants and restrictions. My eyes are watering. Y'all are seeing me fall apart over here. We've got covenants and restrictions so that, it's mostly, or it's all industrial or light industrial. But those restrictions help so that we're not putting in smokestacks, paper mills, things that smell bad. Now, especially now that we're going to have so many residential neighbors, we really have to be good neighbors and thoughtful about that. So these are the companies that are located in that industrial park. The two that are in red are ones that are under construction. So Elite Cryogenics is a new one. And then Palco is another one that's new. And we joke that Bauer Equipment really has been the project that keeps on giving. So when they moved here, they partnered with Schlumberger and started a company called Bauer Palco. And then that just recently, they separated and Palco spun off. And Palco now has bought land. That's what's under construction. So that one project has resulted in 3, which has been good. So if you haven't driven around out there, you should, because there's a lot of big companies. Okay, so the tech park, this is that small green one that's kind of on the south side of where that residential is going to be. It's 248 acres. Same thing, we put in all the infrastructure, and that gives us an advantage, you know, so that when a company says, hey, are you site ready? We can say, yeah, you know, everything's already there. You got to cut down the trees and you can start to build your area or your site. Same covenants and restrictions. This is a little higher end park. We've got pathways and the, you know, public spaces in the middle where we've got fountains and walkways and benches. So we're really trying to recruit more life science companies, technology-based companies. And so far it's been really successful. So this is we have our first tenant that's out in Dyson Technology Park. It's called VGXI. They actually are located in the Woodlands. They're headquartered there. And so we were competing with, I think it was Germany. There was a site in Germany. They were either going to expand in Germany or in Conroe. And they chose Conroe. So they make DNA plasmids, and those DNA plasmids go into gene therapies and vaccines. And so they're building a 248,000 square foot campus in Conroe, which is really exciting. So they'll be able to, and this is like not the right terminology, but they'll go from being able to make 800, we're going to call them units of plasmid a month to 8,000. So their impact is going to grow significantly. So anyways, you can see I've got some pictures. Oh wait, no, I thought we had some pictures of it, but you can kind of see in the background, there's a picture of what the facility will look like and then the groundbreaking. So that's an exciting project. So this is a little bit about that, the airport. If you hadn't been out to the airport, it's fantastic. You can go have lunch at the Black Walnut Cafe upstairs and watch the planes take off. It's a 7,500 foot runway. And then we talked about the customs facility that we helped to fund, which is really, you know, when you think about the trifecta here in this area, where a company, they could put their headquarters in the Woodlands, where you've got a lot of Class A office space, their manufacturing or distribution facility in Conroe, have a customs facility that they could fly in and out of. It's really a good selling feature. So these are some of the incentives that are available for some of these companies. Now, you know, it's harder when you talk about startups and entrepreneurship, you know, classes and places to seek out incentives. There aren't as many big incentives for startup businesses. Now, there's some, and we're continuing to do our due diligence to try to find those, you know, whether it's angel investors, investor networks. There are some grants available at the federal level, but these are generally, you know, the tax abatements, Freeport exemptions. We have cash incentives. And those incentives, the way they work, they're all based upon capital investment and jobs created. So if you're investing capital in our city and you're creating jobs, and we've got, you know, a rubric to figure out the right amount, you know, basically they're just not paying a tax for a short period of time. So the county, you know, a lot of people, I want to take a minute just to explain, because it gets sort of vilified in the media that we're giving away free money, and that the city doesn't have that money until the company comes. So there's no money that's being given away. The city then earns that money because the company is taking a piece of raw land that on the tax rolls doesn't generate any money. They're putting a building in and bringing jobs in. So now they will have something to pay taxes on, you know, the value will increase. And so that's what they don't pay those property taxes for the first 10 years is the longest they can do it. So it's money that the city didn't have to begin with. And we just give them a break in the first 10 years. So anyways, it's not free money. It's not a handout. And it's all based upon, you know, it's typically less than 30% of the overall value is being abated. So, if it looks like, oh, well, they're giving $3 million to Exxon. No, we're not giving $3 million. That $3 million, we didn't give it to Exxon anyways, but that's being, they're just not having to pay that amount of taxes in the first 10 years. And they'll pay way more than that. The city recoups its money quickly in that, with those incentives. Anyway, so this goes through some of the guidelines, which I kind of talked about. You got to be in the city. They've got to be in one of our manufacturing industries. It's not available for startups, mostly because we ask for financial statements. And so there are some available for startups that are at the federal level. And those are some that we're trying to kind of have a better understanding of to see how we could use better at the city. So check back with us. Some of the recent big announcements was Busky Logistics, which is a trucking company. Texas Tissue Converting, that's a fun one. They make, if you they make like they bring in these huge rolls of paper and they convert them into toilet paper, Kleenex, and paper towels. And so but the toilet paper they sell at HEB, they're the store brand is what they do. So they're like the HEB store brand. Anyway, so they've eliminated the cardboard tube. So now it's a takeaway tube. So when you get your toilet paper pack, you can pull out the center and you just put it on the holder. And so you have this little piece, this little takeaway tube that's rolled up that you could stick in your, like we stick it in our soccer bag, so because there's never toilet paper in the out at the sports fields. So anyways, I think that's kind of a cool thing, but they sell them at HEB. And then American Furniture Warehouse is another big project. And because that's got, we were able to do a kind of a creative incentive because it's only 100,000 square feet of showroom and the other 400,000 square feet is warehouse and distribution. So we were able to work with them on an incentive where we reimburse the city. Okay. I'm checking the chat just to make sure I didn't miss something. Let's see. And I'm almost done. Okay, so then the last couple of slides here. So Woodforest National Bank, they're building a brand new building in downtown Conroe. And so we couldn't incentivize that, but we did pay for the demolition of the previous building. So that's open. The bank is open downstairs. You can walk through it. And if you need some lease space for your new business, you can lease in that building. And so this is another project. We've got Sabre Industries and Elite Cryogenic, and then Home Depot distribution facility. That's a big project. That one's cool. There's a rail spur that goes into the building that was reactivated into the Home Depot distribution facility. So that's that picture. And then this talks about Margaritaville. It's 303 luxury suites. This is kind of the renovation they did. They put in a big lazy river. It's cool. They've got 72,000 square feet of conference space. And then this is Sam Houston State, has a College of Osteopathic Medicine. So they have a DO school right there, and they're going to build right next door. They've just announced an allied health building. And then this is about our convention center, a full service Hyatt Regency Conroe Convention Center. Here's a picture of it. I said it'd be 252 keys with, I think, 60,000 square feet of meeting space. Some more pictures. The pool's actually on the second floor. So if you see above, the pool is above on that second floor. And that's kind of what I had for you today. I hope that gives you a snapshot into what's happening in Conroe. And again, we want to be a resource to the entrepreneur community. And so we're sort of just beginning to dip our toe in that. And you guys are kind of our the first group we're getting out and getting in front of and making sure that we're supporting. So if there are things that you guys are looking for, let us know. Obviously, we're working on trying to figure out some grant funding. And then our website has a new tool. Let me see if I can. I'll stop sharing. Our website has a new tool called Size Up. So when you go to Conroe.org or ConroeEDC.org, the first tab says Size Up. And so if you, let's say you're starting a bakery, you can put in bakery and it'll show you all the other bakeries in the area. It'll show you what the revenue stream, what their revenue is, the number of employees they have, what they pay those employees hourly. It's general information, but it gives you some competitive information. So the tool's called Size Up, and it's the ability for you to be able to size up your business. Would you be able to help with hot tax requests and allocations? The hot taxes goes through and supports our Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I could absolutely connect you with the CVB. Shannon Overby is the executive director. And I can connect you with her to see if that's something that they can do. I apologize for having a major coughing spell in the middle, falling completely apart. Y'all are nice and patient. Thank you.
No, I think, Laura Lee, that was amazing. And I think we're very blessed to have you here. And thank you very much for making the time. One thing I would say to you, and just knowing our people here, is a large amount of them are nonprofit organizations. And I think one of the great things we could potentially do is finding ways to bring our nonprofit and our for-profit, find a way to introduce them to these larger businesses, because, you know, they have their suppliers and vendors, you know, as you know, when we're talking about companies coming from Germany and that, they have their suppliers from Germany and such, you know, providing them products. It would be nice for some of these people who move into the Conroe area, especially these companies that are coming from outside of Texas, if we could introduce them to local resources. I'm sure you do that already. If we could find a way to introduce them to like construction, or even some of the nonprofit organizations where we do counseling, things to help people out. I think that would be a huge opportunity. And I think that would not only be an opportunity, but also help us to localize, keep the money in Conroe instead of going out to Germany or Japan or somewhere else, you know, where it has no impact, you know.
Totally. I love that idea. I mean, I think there's some great ways. And one of the things we've talked about is that being able to, you know, exactly what you said, introduce our local companies to these big companies that move in, and that we can do, we need to brainstorm on what that looks like.
Okay.
And how we get these businesses in front of them, whether it's a listserv that we provide, and we could do that through our business retention efforts. Jennifer, who is our business retention specialist, you know, she is in contact with all those companies. I mean, once we recruit them here, then she adds them to her program. And so she hosts, I think they call it HR Fuse. And so it's all of the HR directors from a lot of these big companies that get together and network. I mean, that's a perfect place to say, hey, do you know where these local suppliers are?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, one of the things, because I was in Asia for a long time working with the Chinese, I actually ran a few projects with the Chinese government in these FTZ zones, foreign trade development zones, FTZ and FTD zones. And one of the things is, you know, they always have these groundbreaking ceremonies. You know, they're huge. You just saw one where they're shoveling, right? And the way the Chinese government did is, when they did these groundbreaking ceremonies, they would invite all the local, they knew could, you know, they would see the spend. They would literally go through the spend of the company, and they would invite all the local businesses that were parts of those itemized spend, and, you know, have them just, you at the beginning meet the businesses, because it's those first, as you know, the first like 3-6 months where they're making their decisions. Maybe they don't buy from you now, but at least they know you. Whereas, you know, if
like a vendor fair of sorts.
Exactly. It's like a mini vendor fair. But you and I know, like the first day when we get on the job, right? That's when we're most open. We're willing to talk to people. When we're there 3 years in the business, we're like, yeah, I've already talked to the guy 5 times. I don't need to talk to him anymore. So if we could find a way to, you know, when they first come in for that, almost like a mini vendor fair, when they first do their groundbreaking, instead of like doing it on their own, we invite the local businesses. It's a huge opportunity. And I think it would look great, you know, great for the city as well.
I love that. I love that idea. I think that's I think that's a fantastic idea. I would love to see that come to fruition. Let's continue to talk on that and work on that. I would love that. Because I think that would be super valuable. I mean, it's almost like I think of it as a welcome wagon for these new businesses. Here are all of the connections for different things that you can buy right here in Conroe, products and services.
Exactly. And you don't have to, you know how sometimes you have to hornswoggle people into getting them to come to these events, right? Because you want to have a big event, right? You want a lot of people there to make it look like, Conroe's a big place. And this way you don't have to hornswoggle anyone. They in fact, they probably will bring people for you. So, but anyways.
Well, and like within the businesses in the industrial park, some of it's happened organically, like I think Sooner Container started working with a business down the street. They were like, oh, we can customize the packaging, for whatever it is you're shipping.
Exactly.
So it sort of happened organically, but those are bigger companies. But I love the idea of introducing them to some that are some of our smaller businesses that can be suppliers as well.
Thank you for listening. Anyone else got some comments, thoughts they want to share? We've got the ears of Conroe here, so.
I see there was a question about programs for vets. We don't have any there. I think there are some specific, this is where the EDA has some grants available. And this is what I want. And I honestly just have learned about the EDA grants that are available for entrepreneurs. And so I want to do some more research and figure out, how we access those and how we can distribute those funds. And if there are, I don't know if they're specific to veterans or not. But I was at our Texas Association of Economic Developers conference, and they had a special session that I attended about, grant funding for startups. So we're doing some more research and trying to figure out more ways to support, again, what we call economic gardening in this community. So I appreciate your time and your patience. And I hope you learned at least one or two new things. And you've got my contact information. Please share it with them. So if you guys have questions, I want to make sure you get answers and we can connect you to the right folks. Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura.